Welcome back to our podcast, our Last 30, a podcast about life, death, and everything in between. As you can see, Cesar and I are in two different locations, man. It's been a challenge. This is our first week of recording with the new unique, circumstance. That's Cesar living in a whole other state. I'm still here in Texas. And, we definitely appreciate people reaching out and saying, like, I haven't seen a new episode, man. What's up with the podcast? Like, hey, we're trying to figure some logistics out.
Figuring stuff out.
Yeah. But we're back, man. And in fact, we're back today with some great news to share. But really, because you're the reason we're able to share. So if you're listening, we just really want to say thank you to you for listening, for sharing, for engaging. The comments, all that stuff matters. And then the big one is for you to subscribe, and as of today, or earlier yesterday, whatever the situation was, we are now officially at 10,000 subscribers. And so
just a little over that right now.
Just over 10,000. And again, man, like for those of y'all who've been with us for the last year and some change, that our goal was to get 50 subscribers. And it's not that we can't dream big, but we're rational and we didn't want to, sit there and start dreaming of all these big things. And so in our limitations, we thought we're going to get 50 subscribers. And the truth is, Cesar, man, we were concentrating on the meat, on the carne of the topic and of the relevance. And we weren't really interested in strategies to get more people to listen in. We just didn't know how all that stuff worked. So Cesar was able to figure that out and get creative in topics, in guests, in the marketing side of this. And we went from 50 and then we had 60, 70, 80. And the next thing you know, we had 100. And we're like, yeah, man, let's drink. Let's celebrate. We're always looking for a reason to celebrate, if you know what I mean. And then it just kept growing, man. And people were liking the content and engaging with us. And as of late yesterday or early this morning, we are at 10,000. So thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate you guys listening in, and I know it's been a couple of weeks since we've recorded and we posted anything. We even thought about putting a little bloopers episode of all the stupid things that happen behind the scenes when we record, but that one might not have to be uploaded. But
Cesar started looking into that, and 98.6% of the videos were of me.
Yeah.
If you was like, all right, stupid stuff, like, yeah, bro, you it ain't 50-50, As a matter of fact, before going live today, I had a little laughter episode, and so much so, if you can tell, my face is red. Like, I laughed so much at me, okay? Those are the best laughs, you know that. And Cesar just sat back and was just like, it's ridiculous. Actually, what he said was, I hate you.
Literally. That was my response to that.
Oh, my God.
You want to tell him why?
Yeah. I said, dude, I'm looking for a link. I don't see the link on the calendar. And he says, that's because I emailed it to you. And I said, hey, calm down, big boy. Let me go find it. And I said, what do I look it up under? And he wouldn't answer me. I was like, dude, what's the topic? How did you label it? What's the date? What's the time? All the details. And he was so mad he wouldn't respond to me. When I found it, it said link for today's podcast. I just lost it, man, because it was such a. He knows me so well. He had to keep the message so simple.
The subject, not even the message. That was the subject. Link for today's episode on the subject.
Oh, it was one of those you had to be there. Anyways, we don't want to waste your time. The point is that I was able to locate the link for today's
Mm-hmm.
podcast episode. You know, we like to have fun, man. We like to talk about um, some really good, really interesting topics. People are really enjoying it, you know, and we get to hear from individuals in the community. And we think now, we're hoping that we'll have some new listeners there in Ohio. You know, Cesar will start making his impact, and you'll see that in the hopefully in the metrics where it reflects that as well. Um, and so we talk about life, we talk about death, and all those topics that are everything in between. Today we're going to talk about um, we're going to blend all that together, right? And we're start off with sharing with you that you know here in the U.S. Suicide rates for men of color are rising, yet we're still the least likely to seek help, and basically that's the weight of silence. You know, Caesar shared that with me, and I said, you know, I think and the reason we can use the word, I'll say it there, and then I'll refrain from making reference to that word in today's podcast. But um, what I countered with, right, is not countered. What I added to the conversation was that in my experience in working with men, talking to men, I haven't seen any group, nor do I know if the data reflects this, that are exempt from making that decision to end their lives. Men of all races, ethnicities, religious beliefs, veterans, non veterans, educated or not. Um, I'm aware that in some industries, right, in some fields, there's a higher rate of men who choose to end their life. I think about law enforcement, the medical establishment.
Yep.
So we kind of go back and forth. You know, we're Latino, we're Hispanic, so we tend to share data about that, but we're not ignorant to the fact that um, depression, stress, anxiety, and those thoughts incorporate every community that we're familiar with. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's
So
the
I
reality.
think, yeah, and I think this is a good episode. The reason why we're doing this is again, we are in the month of September. We're at the beginning of September, which is Suicide Awareness Month. So we figure it was a good topic to talk about today. Just bring, not necessarily bring light to the topic, but just continue to grow that conscience of checking in on each other, being able to check in on your people, understanding that, yeah, at the end of the day, men specifically are the less likely to seek for help whenever they're going through stuff. They're the less likely to tell anybody when they are thinking of making that decision. So just continue to bring awareness like we've been doing with the podcast, and we thought that it was a great time of the year to do that with this episode.
Yeah, yeah, and the whole reason a month was dedicated to this topic is because of the impact that it has on families, the impact it has on communities. And again, I can't say this enough. There's no community that is exempt um, from depression, from those thoughts of ending one's life. It's a tough topic, and so if that triggers anyone, you know, we kindly ask that you know not listen to today's episode. Uh, we don't know where we're going with this sometimes, but we know we're going to spend the next 30 to 45 minutes talking about how culture um, is impacted in this decision, how silence um, embeds itself in many communities, and then what that looks like in around the U.S. Right. So Caesar, get us kicked off, man. Let's where do we begin on this? It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a very difficult topic to talk about and even to get us started. But I think most of our followers, hopefully, our followers are also following us um on our Facebook account and our Instagram and stuff like that, our social media account. And I think that's a great way to start. Earlier this week, whenever the month started, we put out a small letter, I would call it, to our listeners and to the people that are in our lives about that, about the awareness um, that we wanted to create. And I think that's a great way to start. I think that letter focused a lot on high functioning depression and what does that look like? How does that come about? What kind of things are our friends, what kind of things are our listeners, what kind of things our family members need to look for whenever it comes to that, and how that ties into men specifically, and that masculinity norms that we were raised with, basically. Just that for us being Hispanic, that machismo of not showing your weakness, not talking about stuff, not going to therapy, um, and those discussions that happen between that. But yeah, I think honestly that's a good way to start, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, yeah, and so you mentioned machismo and pretty common the term, anyways, in the Hispanic community. And we know the Hispanic community is diverse. I mean, we're not all the same. Even Caesar and I, when you think about it, we both identify as having roots, of being Mexican. But Caesar was born in Mexico, and my family hasn't had someone born in Mexico in 7 or 8 generations, right? And so while we have uh, similar beliefs and thoughts in our culture, it is multi generational, um, interrupted, right? In that sense, and yet the term machismo integrates itself into our culture. It could be that if you're listening today from another community, you might have similar experiences. They might have a word from it for it. They may not. But basically, we're talking about what is referred to often to as just being strong, right? And so again, you could have a long discussion. You could have a whole topic, a whole episode about machismo and how it's used, interpreted, defined, and weaponized, in fact, right? But we're talking about just a traditional understanding of someone who's being strong in their thoughts and their actions, and how that specifically. We're not here to talk about machismo. We're here to talk about how machismo and those thoughts can affect you when you're uh, um, dealing with anxiety, depression, particularly. Um, can you share, Caesar, kind of your own perspective or story, something personal to you, when you just were basically expected to deal with it, to push through, and how machismo, uh, well, kind of encourage that understanding of just dealing with it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's tough because I think there's been a lot of times where I've been not necessarily forced to just deal with it, but I forced myself and felt that pressure and put that pressure on myself to just deal with stuff. But I think honestly, one of the biggest things that comes to mind is just whenever I started therapy. At one point a few years ago, I did get diagnosed with high functioning depression, anxiety, panic attacks, things like that. That was kind of my diagnosis from my therapist. So yeah, even to get to that point, I was always very hesitant on seeking help, on going to therapy, on talking to people about it because of the way that we were brought up. I think again, the thing that just pushed me over the edge was when my dad passed away after I grew up and after I graduated and things like that. I just went down a spiral that was never going to be healthy for me. the way that I was coping with my feelings, the way that I was coping with the things that I was going through was not healthy for me. I was relying heavily on alcohol at that time. For a couple of years, I would go, I would party 4 or 5 days a week, come home at 3 or 4 in the morning, shower up, and go straight to the office. Uh, and try to work and function in front of students like that because I wasn't able to deal with what I was feeling and what I was going through. So it came to a point where I just felt the pressure also to deal with it. I felt the pressure that I needed to show my students that I was leading at that point, to show my family, to show myself that yeah, I could handle it. So that's whenever therapy started for me, and I think that's what has also shifted my mentality and expectations and um, just the ability to talk about these topics and the willingness to talk about these topics as well. It's hard to just even remember and think about all of this. And if you go to a therapist, you talk to a psychologist, whatever, opening up those wounds, opening up those experiences, that brings kind of a PTSD in some senses. You feel it. You can physically feel what you were feeling whenever you were going through these stuff. So it's hard to talk about it, but I think it's important for me to be open about it and talk about it because that's the only way we're going to be able to change this cultural expectations on men and machismo and what the toxic masculinity is and things like that.
And that's hard to hear, man, because I think if you're listening today, whether you're a man listening in or you're a partner of someone who's listening in, right, or needs to listen in, you know that for so many of us, not dealing with it, men and women, in fact, is so much easier than dealing with it. If we're
I
talking
agree.
about ease, right? Like, no, I'm gonna shelve that thought. I'll deal with it later. And any professional will tell you that you're likely not going to deal with it when you have time. It's going to be dealt when it wants to. And you may not be ready for it to be dealt.
Yes, sir.
That's the reality. Right? And that's how depression works. And
That's
so
what
you went
happens.
from, which is pretty common, using alcohol as a method to escape, which is, I think, pretty common.
Yeah.
Um, some people go a harder route. Some people use, there's so many different ways to escape. But the problem with some of these, right, is that escape mechanism can turn into an addiction if you don't watch it. You're partying, having a good time 3 or 4 or 5 days a week. The likelihood of alcohol saying, all right, now you're mine is real.
Yeah. Yeah. And I started
Uh,
going down that rabbit hole for a little bit. Whenever I started, I it was in the morning. I needed to have a beer or I needed to have a drink because of all that. I was lucky enough, which not many people are, to be able to have the the circle of people in my small circle to be like, hey, you're messing up on here. You're not doing things right. You're screwing up at work. You're screwing up with your family. You're screwing up here. And something clicked in me that I figure I needed to change, and that's whenever I took a break from it, stopped drinking for a while, and now I mean we joke about it and we drink in episodes and we do that, but I am very conscious that I'm doing it now because I want to just have a drink and celebrate the accomplishments that we're doing, or have a drink with you and just have a chit chat, rather than to mask and
yeah.
cover up the feelings that I'm going through. I don't
And
even
I
use
think
it.
I think that's a great reference right there to mask.
Mhm.
And what a phenomenal visual representation in the brain, dude. You're masking, hiding away,
Yep.
right? Is what you're doing. It's what we do. We hide
Mhm.
that, and if you think that men are exempt from that, you're wrong. You're wrong because I mean we know how to hide stuff. We know how to hide emotions. We're gonna talk about that, what that stigma looks like in the community here in a second. But the truth of the matter is, Caesar, you were doing likely what was modeled whether in your family, it could be in our communities around this great earth, movies, music, books, and everything else for that matter,
Yeah, no, that's
to
exactly
hide
what it
it.
was. That's exactly what it was, and I think it's easier at times to hide it with that and feel that high of being drunk or having a drink or having a good time and party, whatever, than being sober and feeling the lows and all those feelings hitting you at once of whatever it is going on. Like I said, for me at that point was the death of my dad. So I'd rather be partying and having my mind focused on something else than being at home doing nothing and thinking about that aspect of my life and what I could have done differently or what I should have done differently, things like that.
Check it.
All these thoughts that come back.
And that's because you have a family, Caesar, that loves
Mm-hmm.
you, cares about you, and makes themselves available, right? And
100%.
we know that we come from families of tremendous privilege in that regard, that we have
100%.
people around us. And that's not true for everyone. Some men may not feel supported, may not
Unfortunately,
feel
yeah.
like they have family. They might physically not have family around them.
Yep. Yeah.
And that just makes everything so much more difficult. Not
Yeah.
impossible.
It's it has to do a lot with the individual as well. And how much we look introspectively on what we're doing and how we're handling things. Because
Can you so can you expand on that, Caesar? Like, so just dealing with it pushed you to a position where you could very easily have started to isolate and integrate into your life dangerous coping strategies,
yeah,
none of which are going to help you.
no, no, absolutely not. They are a band-aid on a gashing wound.
Mhm.
They're a band-aid on a bullet wound. They're not gonna help you. They might cover it for a little bit, but that's about it. And for me, whenever again, I have no idea why to this point, to this day, I've still been going to therapy. I've been going to therapy for what 2025, so almost 6 years, 5 6 years. Been in constant therapy. I still don't know what was that shift in me, that light switch that's like, hey, you got to do better. You got to do something. But I think that's what it is, man. We try to find the easiest way to cope with things, and we try to go with the easiest route to try to continue living our normal lives and continue to do what we're supposed to do because we're men. Whenever I was partying and drinking, I never not showed up for work. I was always in the office. I always clocked in. I was always at the events. I was always doing what I needed to do. My mind wasn't there though.
Yeah.
Physically, I was there because that's what a man has to do. No matter what, you got to show up for work. You got to make that money. You got to pay bills. You got to do X, Y, and Z. So it was technically holding to those masculine man norms that
Yeah.
we've been grown with and we've seen in culture. But I was dealing with a lot of other stuff, and I could have isolated myself. Thankfully, when I did was pulling away, whenever I was isolating, my family brought me back in. Again, I don't know what that shift was, what that switch was, but I'm like, let me stop back a little bit from the partying, the drinking, whatever. Let me look into what I'm doing wrong, what I could do better. Because at the end of the day, I think the biggest things in the back of my head was not letting my family down, regardless of
Yeah.
whatever was going on. So I think that had a lot to do with me not spiraling down that rabbit hole and being able to pull back at a perfect time or at a good time to mitigate some of those aspects and some of that. But like you said, some of us or some people don't have that community. Some people feel like that community has betrayed them at some points. They physically don't have a community anymore. So it's very difficult. Like you said, we're privileged in the lives that we live and the families and the community that we surround ourselves with. But yeah, that could have been dangerous and taken me to in a different rabbit hole.
You know, another thing, you mentioned family a couple of times. Um, they can be a beautiful blessing, And in some cases, as we know from working with others, they can be a barrier. And allow me to explain. Um, Sometimes family will encourage you, will actually discourage you from going to therapy, and say no, just in our community say it sounds a lot like this: mijo, just pray about it. Mijo, just go work more. Mijo, go work out, or don't think about it. Just don't think about it, mijo.
Still think about it. Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, tia, mom, sister. You said don't think about depression.
Okay.
That'll
Cool.
fix it.
Got it. Got it. I'm good.
Hey, it turns out I didn't think about it today. I'm good, right? Oh man, I wish it were that simple. The truth of the matter is, it's complicated. It's difficult. We're thankful for our family, because without them, me personally, I don't know what I'd do. But yeah, that's the reality.
No.
In some families, it can be difficult.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So, we talked about that, and mentioned earlier what silence can do. And we hear about silence all the time, and the beauty of silence. I'm someone in fact that appreciates some good quiet time.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's some primal feeling, but I love to be sitting around a campfire and listening to the wood crackling, watching the fire, you know, dance, and just kind of think about life. Um, and that silence is beautiful.
Yeah.
But what we talk about also here is how not talking about something can affect you. And um, when you talk about the previous topic, and just pushing through it, I share all the time when I talk to young people, or anyone for that matter. I talk about my testimony. I share with them that and I say this piece so they understand kind of where I'm coming from. And I tell them, I was almost 50 years old. I had several earned college degrees, including a doctorate, and had traveled the world, and I'm an Army veteran, and I put all these little things on my tool belt, and then I share with them, and yet I didn't know how to handle that situation. I didn't know how to handle um, the death of my mom in my head. I just didn't know what to do, and I ended up losing myself, right? Because I was silent. I didn't seek help, and in my head, I was telling myself, just push through, man. Just you'll be all right. And the truth is that I, like many individuals in my situation, needed help. And I share those things about me so that if you're listening today, it's not to brag and say I have a doctorate, or I'm a veteran, or I'm whatever. It's to say that I thought I had this tool belt of resources, and it wasn't enough.
No.
I thought that having a wife and kids that loved me would be enough, and it wasn't, Caesar. I thought that having a beautiful, comfortable home and a nice car that I got to pick, and that I loved, would be enough, and it wasn't. And that's kind of where I'm transitioning right now to. I went dark. I went silent in that regard, and then I also went dark in my thoughts.
Yeah.
And that silence did me no favors.
No, I
It,
said it did the complete opposite in doing favors. It started, yeah, those when you start getting those dark thoughts, it's not very um it's not good. But like I was mentioning earlier, with the high functioning depression though, nobody knows about it. Bro, if they would have seen us, if they would have talked to us, if they would have hung out with us when we were going through
yeah,
these dark thoughts, they're like,
yeah.
oh, they're fine. They got their stuff together. But in reality, that again, That's that mask that we were putting out there. That's that mask that we were giving our loved ones, or the people that we interacted with. It looked like we were holding it together. It looked like we were the strong ones and had everything in place. But once those door closes in the shower, whenever we're in the shower by ourselves, whenever we're driving to work, whenever we're alone. We were
Yeah.
talking about this a couple days ago with the music. I don't listen to music anymore on my way to work. These songs, a lot of songs,
Too
bring back
much.
memories, bring back wounds that I don't want open up on my way to work. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing or not, but even a song that brings back a memory can make me cry, bro. Like instantly. It's great. I love crying. I don't have anything against crying. Well, I don't know if I love crying. Pause. I don't know if I love crying, but I don't mind it. Whenever I need to, I cry, and that's how I let things out. But there's days that I'm feeling great, and just a song or
But
a
you weren't
memory.
always like that, Caesar. You weren't
Oh no,
always in a position where like, hey man, I need to cry, right? Or it's okay for me to
no,
cry. You were definitely not someone
no.
who was raised that way
Mm-mm.
and had that thought just like, yeah, it's cool to cry.
It started with therapy. I think the first time I cried in front of somebody was with my therapist. Other than whenever I was a kid and I got
Yeah,
spanked for being bad,
yeah.
like that, I cried in front of mom. Whenever I was little, I getting spanked, but as an adult, yeah, it was in front of my therapist. And honestly, probably that whole first year of therapy, most sessions, I ended up crying.
Hey, and Caesar, was your therapist a man or a woman?
A woman,
Damn, dude, that's like a
a
unique
woman.
challenge right there.
That's exactly
I
the way
feel
I've
like,
done.
you know what I mean?
That's what I've done it. So I knew that if I had a guy as a therapist, I was still gonna have that. Nah, bro.
Yeah, yeah,
Let
yeah,
me
yeah.
hold it in.
I
Let me
see
tough it
that.
out. Let me tough it
Yeah,
out. With a woman, I'm like, you know what? She's my therapist.
yeah,
I'm not trying to date her. I'm
right.
not trying to right. So I'm like, whatever happens, happens. So
You just
yeah,
saw her as a professional, not
exactly.
someone who's going to judge you, right? And maybe and
Hmm.
because of the issues you were coming in with, you were apprehensive about speaking to a man because you're like, I know me, I'm going to act a certain way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And it's I was thinking I might be wrong. I'm like again, I've never had a man therapist, but
sure.
the the advice that we give other men, the way that we talk to other men, I figured that was the same way that the therapist was going to talk to me. So I'm like, yeah, it might help to let it out, but at the end of the day, like I can't really be vulnerable in front of a man.
Yeah.
Like you can't be vulnerable in front of another man at any other point in time other than therapy. So for me, that's what I've done this last 6 years, 5, 6 years that I've had therapists. They have all been women. And within like a 10 to 12 age gap between
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I
That way they're
got you.
not too not necessarily old, but disconnected with the experiences.
Easy, sir. Hold up, hold up. Now,
I
don't
know
be
that's what I
using that
want to say.
word. Oh,
Old.
easy.
I know that word hurts you. I know that word hurts you. But
Wise.
disconnected from my
Wise.
experiences.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure.
So that's what's been for me. And that's what's helped, honestly.
No, that's unique, man. But I get it, dude. You know yourself well enough, and I think that's some good advice. You know yourself well enough to know, hey, man, if I had a male therapist, it wasn't going to work for me. Nothing against a male therapist. There's some phenomenal ones out there. It's the
Oh,
same thing if you were to say, hey, I really need someone, for example, who's bilingual, because there's some times where I'm not sure if that's something that you considered. I'm sure it is, but for many people, it's like that's the only way I'll talk to someone, and that's important to know, guys, because your primary language, the language that you grew up with, is really where your heart is located. I though I like to think I speak Spanish and I can handle myself okay, I would never seek therapy in Spanish because that my heart is not in Spanish. My heart is English, and I hope you understand that. My spouse, her primary language is Spanish, so she will only seek a bilingual or Spanish language therapist. If that makes sense to you.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's I thought about. I mean, I actually, now that I think about it, all four of my therapists have either spoke Spanish or knew a little bit or
Mhm.
were bilingual. Yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
know if that's what I was looking for at that time. I can't recall if that was like one of the
Right.
specifications that I was looking for, but
Right.
yeah, it just turned out to be that way.
And I think it also reflects like, the world of counseling is pretty diverse, man.
That's
So
true.
I guess the point we're trying to make today, guys, is if you need to seek a therapist, and I think we all benefit from seeking therapy,
Yeah,
there's enough diversity in that field to find someone that you're going to be comfortable with, right?
100%.
I want someone I like talking to people who are veterans because a lot of my conversations are going to be, or someone who is married, because the majority of my conversations are going to be marital life, veteran kind of stuff, and things I deal with, and maybe being a father. It doesn't mean that I'm looking for the perfect therapist, but again, right? If you were, no disrespect, but if you were 25 years old, you had just graduated and just got certified and doing stuff, the likelihood of this 50 plus year old
Yeah,
connecting with you is low.
of course. And it's more likely that I connect with somebody
Absolutely.
of that
Yeah.
age or that, yeah, it's just
And sometimes we're
life
proven wrong,
experiences. Yeah,
right?
of
I mean,
course.
sometimes we're proven wrong, but for the most part, you really want to. Our point on this is, if you're seeking it, it's available. It's available
Yeah,
to you. You know.
yeah, and honestly, nowadays therapy and a therapist is super easy to attain. You can do it virtually. You can do it in person. You can do it. There's websites now that you can do it for like $25 a session. Because obviously, if a lot of therapists, therapy is expensive. Uh, if you don't have a good insurance, it's going to cost you 150 to 250 a session. And sometimes you might need to go once a week. That's up to $1,000 a month just in therapy. A lot of people are pushed away from seeking therapy because of that.
Yeah.
But like I said, nowadays you can go and find a therapist online. It's their reputable websites and stuff like that that they have really good therapists for 25, $35 a session and do it online. So
I think it's like everything in life, man. Like, depending on where you're at financially, there's a resource for you.
of course, yeah,
If you have financial limitations, there are free services that are available to you.
yeah,
I just came back. I've been reconnecting after 20 something years with my veterans benefits. I just hadn't, I went and I just felt like the people were really rude and just didn't understand me. These are the workers there. And so I never went back. It's 23, 24 years ago. I went back a couple weeks ago and, you know, some things have changed, some things haven't. Unfortunately, you have people who are overworked,
yeah,
likely underpaid, and it's tough for them. And I wish that weren't true, but my point to that is that those resources, those important resources, are available to veterans. Those resources, if you want them, are available to Spanish speakers, to bilingual individuals, to people new to the country, to um, people who have have been in the system, or currently in abusive relationships. There are resources available, and before we leave, we're gonna talk about that. Here, I didn't turn my phone off, so I'm getting calls. It's that time of the day where the calls start coming in, but anyways, I'm off. Don't they understand that? No, I guess they don't.
well, you got to turn your
Caesar,
phone off.
One of the things we talked about also is like how that pain, depression, anxiety, is just normalized oftentimes in the community, whether you're African American, Latino, white, Asian. In our communities, what I mean by that is like we don't seek help, and that's quite normal. If you were to say in a room of 10 guys, like, hey, how many guys have sought uh, therapy for issues? The likelihood is less than half, significantly less than half, and it's pretty normal. Now, if you were to change that and say who would benefit from, I think that it would be more on the positive side of that spectrum.
Mhm.
Can you kind of expand a little bit on how we normalize not getting help in our communities?
Yeah, I think honestly it goes back to those norms. It goes back to how we were raised. We were told not to cry. We were told not to talk about our problems. But if we're talking also about like Hispanic families, we were taught to not talk about our issues and problems outside of the household. So that's a very cultural thing that also plays into it. So yeah, we just ended up thinking that going through stuff, dealing with these emotions, dealing with the things that we were dealing with was part of life. And it is part of life, but you don't have to go through it without expressing it to others, without talking about it. And I think that's where we've normalized that having those feelings and being depressed and being having that depression anxiety has also become very normal for people, which I also think that term depression, anxiety, all of that has been thrown around very lightly the last couple of years. Uh, you can go on TikTok and you can find thousands of people that say, "Oh, I'm depressed because they don't want to do X, Y, or Z," or "Hey, I'm depressed because I lost my job," or whatever. My new things. I feel that's different. Like talking about my experience and my example. My high functioning depression was diagnosed from a mental health professional. My anxiety was diagnosed from a mental health professional. I was on medication for a little bit because of my anxiety and all of that. So I think that's also very important to differentiate those two things because those terms, I don't know. I think social media has also allowed for people to just throw them around just like that when in reality it's not that, and that also changes the perspective of people and how they see depression and anxiety and how they see the need to seek help because there some people are the very basics um, for anything very very basic are going into that when it's in reality it's not that. It's just you're going through a bad patch, you had a bad experience, you did this, whatever, right? And that also normalizes it for others because like, oh well, if X, Y, and Z had this or that and they're fine and they didn't talk about it, they didn't deal with it, they didn't go to therapy, then I don't have to because that's the norm. So I think that's also what has been detrimental in the last few years.
Yeah, it's yeah, unfortunately that the usage of the word has minimized that the seriousness of it.
Yeah.
And I also know when I was a therapist that in many communities they were super cautious about using the word depressed.
Yeah.
Right? They say, no, 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 I'm not depressed. I'm just not feeling well, or I'm in a funk, or
Hmm.
I'm just sad. But don't be saying I'm depressed. Oh, okay. And that's understandable.
Yeah.
We laughed about it, but we had a good time with helping them understand that the words. We know words matter and the impact.
Absolutely.
And so as long as it doesn't affect their their therapy and their willingness to get help. If we want to just say that you're sad, if you want to tell people you're sad and not use the word depressed, that's your choice. Clinically, they're going to label it another way, but so can we go in? The last part of this conversation is touching oh so carefully about men who uh, complete, right? Men who are struggling so badly that again, we talked about at the beginning of the session, Suicide Awareness Month, that they make a decision to end their life, and what that looks like, and I think that because the subject is so sensitive, that the data cannot be current on that. There's no way we can know how many people have had thoughts of suicide, Caesar.
No, and honestly, I think that's very difficult to even have that data. Yeah, like you said, because even if you did have those thoughts and maybe you didn't really go through it, you're not going to talk about it. There's still that stigma of you tried to do it or you had those thoughts about it. Because again, we go back to how we were raised in those cultural norms. That makes you seem weak in front of others. It makes you seem like you didn't have your things together. When in reality, all you needed was just some help. You just needed to talk through your stuff. So it's difficult, but honestly, when individuals do go through it, I don't want to say successfully, but complete what they wanted to. I feel like it's just a silent escape and that there's no other outlet for them. They feel like there's no other outlet for them at that point in time. They're in such a low place mentally that they feel like that's the only way to go. And honestly, for them and in that point, that's how they felt. That's their reality at that point. And
It's
it
tough,
sucks to
man.
say it. Yeah, and it sucks to say it. But for them, they feel like that was the best thing to do. And you and I have talked about this at other times and previously, like for those people that do end up taking their own lives or doing that, I feel like it's more honorable than going out and hurting somebody else. Because we've seen that too. A lot of people
Oh yeah,
struggle the same way, but instead of hurting themselves or hurting whatever, doing whatever, they go out and hurt the community, their family, their close
yeah,
ones, because they don't want to put them through what
yeah,
what they're going through, things like that.
yeah. When I was growing up, I remember on many occasions people would say, usually a man would say something like, "Yeah, he was a coward and he took his own life," and that stuck with me. Right? I just always thought about that, and they would say other stuff too, like. And I don't know what religious beliefs you guys have, but I also heard from a couple of different religions. They would say, yeah, they're going to hell because they committed suicide. And man, dude, you think about all that, and you think like if someone's struggling so much that they're choosing to end their life at that moment, in that split second, they think it's okay. Um, you so that statement doesn't hurt that person. It hurts the survivors. Like if you were to say my mom or dad or uncle or so and so partner took their own life, and then a religious person or another member of the community says, "Yep, they're a coward and they're in hell." Like, whoa, that's that's something that people probably can benefit from having a longer conversation about. Just me, right? And I don't, I'm not coming from any perspective other than I've since embraced, as we've discussed, Caesar, with all the pain and hurt that someone's going through in the world that we live in. Some of these guys, the cowards, the cowards, take out everybody else,
Yeah.
hurting children at a church, people walking in a park, um, hurting people because of their religion or skin color. That's a coward, man. But um, if you're struggling with mental health, I still would plead with you to get help
Yeah.
because of because of what it does to the survivors.
Mhm.
And And everyone I've ever talked to who had thoughts of hurting themselves, everyone I've ever talked to, Caesar, was always better the day after, the hours after. But had they ended their life, there would be no hours or
Yeah.
days after.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
tough
And
topic, man.
it's very difficult. And again, the experiences that we've had, the people that we've met, that our communities, we've experienced it. Unfortunately, often. But to anybody that is feeling this way, just understand and know that you're not weak. You're not alone. You're not a burden to anybody. There is always an out. And I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to be able to seek that help and understand that regardless of what is going on currently in your life, whatever difficulties you're struggling with, whatever things you're going through, whatever aches you're carrying in your heart, things do get better. You are needed and loved by your family, by your community, by your friends. Your friends, your family are better off having you there than not having you there. So, yeah, I think that's a that's my message to those people. And those of us struggling, again, I struggle with my mental health daily. Um, if not, I want to go to therapy, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's different levels of struggles. There's different things. There's different struggles for each individual. But I think that's one thing that we all need to remember, that there are resources out there for us. There are things that we can do to get better. People want us to still be there.
And I'll end by saying this, if you're listening today, silence, not saying anything, not reaching out, not asking for help has taken too many in our community.
Yeah,
And but speaking up, that's survival. That's a revolution.
yeah,
Okay. So as you say often, right, Caesar, you got to check on your strong friends, even your strong friends. Check on each other.
yeah,
If I have your phone number, every couple months I send a text out. Hey man, just checking in. How you doing? And I get about 80% within minutes and hours,
yeah,
which I need. I need that. I need to know that my brothers, and I send it to men, are okay. The ones who don't respond, they gonna get another text, and then they gonna get a call, and I'm gonna start getting annoying because I
yeah,
want to know, hey, you may not support my podcast, or you may not buy some popcorn from the fundraiser my kids are doing, or whatever else. You don't have to respond to those texts.
yeah.
But
But
if
this
I
one,
say, "Are you okay?" Right, Caesar? Like hey, give me something. Are you okay? Because I care about you.
yeah,
Um, so you check on your strong friends, you check on your quiet friends, you check on your friends, check on your family. And then we'd like to share, and we'll put this in the comments, but there are many resources available to you,
yeah,
many in your community, no matter where you live. 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is one. There are many, and if you're listening, if you know of some, please add them to the comment section. It's that important that we share with each other,
yeah.
um, so that we can
Use us as resources if you need to. If you're listening and you don't
absolutely,
have, or if you don't think you can go to anybody else,
absolutely,
shoot us a message on DMs. Shoot us a message on YouTube. Obviously, you might not want to put it on the comments. That's a little too too public. But reach out to us. Our social medias are all over. We're more than happy to talk. We're more than happy to reach out and check up on each other. And I think that's what we need too as men. We need that accountability
yeah,
to be able to check up on each other.
yep, yep,
To be able to do that. There's one thing that we like to do with our students, and you'll remember this, when we're having these conversations and having meetings or whatever. It's just like, pick up your phone, text a couple people, hey, I love you, thank you for everything you've done. What are those messages that they get back? Are you okay? Are you, what's going on?
right,
What's wrong with
bro.
you?
You good?
Yeah, you good. So just make it a habit to be thankful to
Yeah,
the people that are in your corner. You
yeah,
don't want, when you do send a text message, Be like, hey man, thank you for X, Y, and Z. To be like, hey, are you okay? What's going on? Like, cause
For real.
bro, and you and I know it. Like when we've been through that. We've talked about it. We've seen it. That when those kind of text messages come, is when some of those individuals are not at their best state of mind. That's for a lot of them. It's
Do
kind
us
of
a
like their
favor.
goodbye.
No, for sure. And when I've gotten those messages as well, do me a favor. If you're listening today, we have 10,000 subscribers now, right? We have an army. We have a small army. Do us a favor, check in on somebody. And when you do, put a like on the video. Call somebody. And when you do, put a like on the video. That tells us, hey, we got 22 people who called or texted somebody. We have
Yeah.
150 people who called and texted. Or you know what? We got
And
10,000 people that checked on 10 to 20,000 others. That's a revolution.
sir.
Well, listen, man, we're done here, guys. Thank you for listening. Caesar, I miss you, homie. I love you, brother. I think you're brave for taking that step. And we'll see you soon, actually. We'll see you real
Yes,
soon. We're
sir.
going to
We'll
be
see you
live
soon.
together here very soon.
Yes, sir.
Thank you
All
guys
right,
for
brother.
listening. Have a
Thank
good one.
you. Thank you, guys.